afternoon to you. Usually morning when I do these things, but I got a chance to do this without the sawmill going on in my backyard because it's Saturday. And so this fourth episode of With All Due Respect is going to touch on a radio story that has made the rounds throughout the KFOG community. KFOG in exile now. KFOG, Fogheads in exile. And I don't know if it's made to the general public, but certainly within the bowels of the radio station. And it goes back to a fateful Friday afternoon in early 1984. Now, I had just been named the general manager of KFOG back in December of 83. So now we fast forward about 3 months, 4 months, something like that, to March or April of 84. And I'm sitting in my office. It's late in the evening, not that late, but 5:30, 5:45, something like that. And I'm sitting in my office, which was right opposite the door that you walked into. We were at Ghirardelli Square back in the days. How about that for a place to work? Very, very nice. And most of the salespeople were either gone or were just leaving or whatever. And as it turns out, and it was probably more like 6 o'clock or so. And as it turns out, I was there, humping right to the end, of course, on behalf of Susquehanna Radio. And Pat Klein, who was the sales manager then, was also back in his office. And I'm at my desk writing something or whatever, and I hear the front door open, and I hear someone holler, "Dung with the cookies." And, some remark, "Oh, great, whatever, okay." So, with that, I pipe up, and I didn't see who it was, but it obviously was M. Dung, otherwise known as M. Dung, but his real name is Mike Slavko. He was a crazy guy, but and those of you who knew him and listened to him would, I think, agree. Anyway, when I heard his name, so I assumed it was him who had walked in, I hollered out, "Hey, Dung, make sure you get me one of those cookies." The big boss, of course. I've got to have whatever comes in the radio station. And whatever, and that was kind of the end of that. And because no one responded to me. So I just, I continued writing or whatever. And then, a couple of moments passed, and I thought, whatever happened to those cookies? So I walked into the studio area, which was very sparse at the point. We had just been transferred from a year prior to that, or a year and a half prior to that, from a beautiful music station. So we didn't really have a big studio complex in the back. Used to run tapes. But anyway, so I kind of nosed myself into the studio area. And I think Amir Mansbacher was there. He may have been on the air, and he was probably going to be followed by Dung or whoever. I don't know. But anyway, I said this. I said, "What happened to the cookies? Come on. You guys brought cookies in. How about sharing them? All right, yeah, well, we'll get them, whatever." I said, "Well, come on, So they got a box, and it was just a regular kind of like cookie box, okay? And they opened it up, and they said, "Go ahead, you sure?" And I said, "Well, yeah, absolutely." And I think they were brownies, actually. This may tell you where this is going. So anyway, I took like two, and in walking out of the studio, I was walking by Pat Klein's office. So I walked into his office, and I said to him, "Hey, you about wrapping up?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Hey, the boys in the back, the programming guys brought in some brownies, and I got a couple of them. You want to share one?" And he said, yeah, I'll have one. So I gave it to him. I went back to my office. I ate the thing, I had a little cooler, so I had some soda with it or something. And whatever. It was, The baker of this thing, in my opinion, didn't use enough sugar, okay? Because it was a little tart and not very well mixed, and it didn't really taste all that well, but it was small, and I ate it, and whatever. So, 10 minutes passed, and I made my way back, threw on my coat, made my way back to Pat's office. I said, "You ready to go?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, great. I'll meet you over at Mulhern's." This was a place that was over in the Marina District. And it was a place where a lot of media people hung out and whatever. So I said, "I'll meet you over there," because it was always a jam about parking and whatever. So off I went. He obviously followed me, and within, and it was right down the street. It wasn't that far away. And so, I don't know, 10 minutes later, 15, probably at the most, 10 minutes later, we wind up connecting up at the bar, and we order a drink. And, there were lots of other people. It was pretty jam-packed. There were several other people there that he knew and that I knew. So it was a typical Friday afternoon, wrap it up kind of media thing, a lot of media people there, whatever. And we start shooting a bologna and whatever. Now, I had a drink, and I think, scotch and soda, and Pat had whatever he had. And now it's, I'm there maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most. And I'm still on my first drink. I hadn't gone through the drink yet, so I'm still on my first drink. And all of a sudden, Jesus, man alive, I started feeling very strange. And I mean real strange. Dizzy strange, lightheaded, not right. I mean, and back in the day, I was in pretty good shape. I was much younger then. So this was 1984, so obviously I was a lot younger. And but I just wasn't feeling well, And as the moments, it almost seemed like, as the moments went on, the kind of more screwed up I felt. And I happened to kind of be in an area that I was separated from Pat, but not by many people, maybe 8, 9 people. And I made it over to Pat. And I said to him, "Pat," I said, "Jesus," I said, "Man, I don't feel good. I don't know what the hell is going on here, but I don't feel good." And out of the clear blue, he said to me, "You know what? I don't feel good either." He said, "I'm like dizzy, lightheaded, whatever, And I said, "Jesus," I said, "Well, what did you get, to drink?" The first thing I'm thinking is I'm going to pass it off on the alcohol, is bad scotch or whatever. Bob Mulhern, if he sees us, will throw a rock at me. But I'm thinking, geez, at that point I was fairly, I could drink, okay? So one drink wasn't going to do it for me in that regard, but I thought, I don't know, geez, maybe it's the drink or something. So I asked Pat actually what he had ordered. He had ordered something completely different than I did. And, I said to him, "Well, geez, you know what? I got to go outside. I got to get some air here, And he said, "You know what? Yeah, I think I got to get some air as well." So anyway, we walk out on the sidewalk and, we're really perplexed here, in terms of how we feel. And quite frankly, now this is maybe, from the time that I start feeling bad to the time that I start being concerned about it, to the time that I find Pat, ask him this question, and he and I chat for a moment about this, about the liquor, and then we make it outside. And by the time, so that's maybe a 4 or 5 minute period of time, I'm feeling worse. I'm feeling a lot worse. And Pat is actually kind of starting to be dizzy and whatever, okay? So, we're really kind of beside ourselves here. We have no idea, okay? And of course, everybody knows what's happening here, I assume. Okay. Well, Pat and I have been around the horn and back, and, may have been born at night, not last night. So finally, one of us, maybe it was Pat, said, "Hey, did you eat that brownie?" And I said, "Yeah." "Did you eat yours?" And he said, "Yeah." And Pat said, Well, what do you think might have been in that brownie? Oh, my Lord in heaven. And then it hit me. It not only hit me, it double hit me, okay? And I went, well, I'll be a son of a bitch. That was a marijuana brownie, baby. Now, you got to understand something. I probably may have been one of the only people in America at that point, at my age. And incidentally, at my age, then I was like, I don't know, 39 or something, or 40, going to be 40. And yeah, I was 39. Anyway, I had been around the block and back, and I was around when the whole marijuana craze started and the whole thing and whatever. And I was a young, adventurous guy, of course. And so I had to jump right in and smoke these doobies right along with all my friends at the time. And again, this is where I go back to where I mentioned that I had to be the only man in America who actually gets sick when I smoke marijuana. Now, it sounds crazy, but it has happened to me, and happened to me quite regularly, okay? Because like a lot of hardheads, or as we used to say in Mechanicville, Cabadost! You know, Cabadost. Anyway, hardhead. Anyway, I not only tried it once and got sick, but then I went, it had to be an overreaction. So I had tried it again, and I tried it again, and I tried it again. And probably by about the sixth time that I smoked a joint and got sick every single time, and I mean sick, throw up sick. It's crazy, but it's true, okay? Whatever, okay? So to me, it wasn't really that funny, okay? Because we didn't know what the hell we were consuming. And if I had known it was a marijuana brownie, I would have just passed on it and that would have been the end of it, okay? So I said to Pat, I said, Jesus, I don't know about you. I said, now Pat was probably, I think he may have been a little less affected by it, but I certainly wasn't. And again, I was high, obviously, okay? But I was starting to get sick. And I lived in the marina, so I lived like another 5-minute drive away from Mulherns. So I decided to go home. I thought, you know what, I got to get the hell out of here, okay? So Pat said, fine, I'm going to leave as well, and we kind of went our separate ways. And I get home, and my dear late wife, Beverly, is there. And she was a consumer of smoke at the time. And I tell her my symptoms, and she had known about my history of getting sick. And so she said to me, yeah, that was probably it. That was probably it. You ate a stuffed brownie full of marijuana. So, whatever, okay? And I thought, geez, I don't know what the hell to do here, you know? And for some reason or another, because I was the manager of the joint, you know, I decided to call Dave Logan. Now, Dave Logan at the time was our program director, okay? A much younger guy than I at the time, in his 20s. A smart, fabulous program director. And I said to him, Dave, look, here's the story. And I said, geez, you know, I'm thinking here that this may have been a marijuana brownie. And he said, I probably have not much doubt on that either. So I said to him, well, what the hell am I going to do about this? I mean, Jesus, I feel terrible. And he had one of the great lines ever. And I don't know if everyone's heard this line in terms of what he told me, but he had one of the great lines ever. He said to me, well, Tony, he said, if I were you, I'd get a pair of headphones and put a Hendrix album on. And enjoy yourself. Anyway, that's the marijuana brownie story from the horse's mouth. A crazy story and one of the true only at K-Fog stories. So, oh, and by the way, I know you're out there. I can hear you breathing.